Let's talk about the World Cup. Let's talk about Germany. Let's talk about Julian Nagelsmann, whose job is under threat. He is in trouble, even if he doesn't admit it, even if he doesn't publicly admit it, even if he doesn't want to accept the fact that his job should be under consideration. That is the reality of it. And you have to look at the factors that have led us here. And we'll get through that in a moment. But before I do, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't put this on notification, and leave a comment and like it if you're minded to. Julian Nagelsmann. I think that if you are the German national team coach and you suffer a round of 32 exits at the hands of Paraguay, and this is not the greatest Paraguayan team of all time, in the manner that they have, your job will be on the line. To go through that essentially takes away every credit that you have. At least that is the case for most coaches. And if you look at the way they have exited this tournament, you cannot help but agree with the critics that the coach has got questions to answer. So if you look at the 4 games that Germany played at this World Cup, they were poor in 3 out of those 4 games. The only game with which they left with a decent reputation was the spanking of Curacao. Even then, there were moments where the Germans looked susceptible to counter breaks, and it left you wondering what this team will do when they come up against a more talented, a more experienced group of players in the tournament. So that was the only game Germany did well. Then you have to talk about against Cote d'Ivoire. They came within that Adingra horrible miss of losing that game. Ecuador certainly were better than them and then won that game. And now Paraguay have beaten them. Those things, and you see, this is not a recent state of affairs. This is not just at this tournament. Over the 2 years that he's been in charge, it's been difficult to tell what exactly he wants to do with this team. There are those who say that he's turned the German national team into a laboratory for the 1,000,001 ideas that he's got. He's a very experimental manager, Julian Nagelsmann, who is wedded to his coaching principles. And sometimes it can be confusing even for players, the extent of information that he gives them and how also the kind of tactical malleability that he is. Every coach has to be flexible, but he seems to be prepared to work around 2 extremes, even in the same game. And sometimes it can create problems. So the product of that is what you see on the pitch. There is no defined style that you can recognize where the team's best combinations are, and those players really show up and repeatedly deliver. So you want to talk about repeated patterns, but at this tournament, we haven't seen that. So beyond the style, beyond the results, he also has made some decisions that I think have been a big part of how he got alienated from the German public. Joshua Kimmich is a big deal. A lot of us have got reservations about him in central midfield, but in Germany, they respect him. He's a captain, big leader in the team. Obviously, there's Manuel Neuer, but Kimmich is as big as they come in the German national team. Now, when you're a coach and you decide that he's not good enough for central midfield and you are shifting him back to the right side of defense as a right back, you better get the results, because some of these things, no matter how sensible it may appear, when you're dealing with personalities like him who have got a big constituency behind them, you better get the results and you better win. So he deciding that Kimmich is not good enough to play in central midfield rubbed off a lot of people the wrong way. Then there are also some players who are popular, but he doesn't play them. Nick Voltemade is an example, but there is an asterisk over his because he's not had a lot of centre forward minutes in the past season with Newcastle United. So you perhaps would understand why he has not been favoured. Also, who are the guys playing ahead of Nick Voltemade? Kai Havertz, brilliant player for Arsenal, brilliant for Germany, and you can't really ask for too much from him. Then there is Dennis Undav as well, who's played a blinder in this tournament as an impact sub, mostly for Julian Nagelsmann and for Germany. There's another player who divides opinion, Leon Goretzka. even among those who are his biggest fans, they will admit that, look, the last couple of years have been very, very difficult for him. He's a player who Bayern fans don't really like, because the last couple of years, Bayern have tried to ship him out of the club. He's on incredibly high wages, doesn't always deliver. These days, he doesn't even play enough to put himself in the position to deliver. But yeah, that is the case with Leon Goretzka, beg your pardon. But somehow, he gets relevance minutes. He plays the odd game, comes off the bench whenever there is a sub to be made. And those terms have been used against Julian Nagelsmann. And that is how come the sentiments have always been against him. And you see, it's not just the fans. At this World Cup, we have seen firsthand what the 2014 World Cup winning squad and members of that squad have done to Julian Nagelsmann. So on Magenta, on that channel, you've got Thomas Muller and Matt Hummels there lambasting him at every turn. Then there is Christoph Kramer and then Per Mertesacker on a different channel, also having a right old go at the manager, ripping him apart. Tony Cruz on TikTok every time has got something else to say. I think the biggest of them was Jurgen Klopp, who had a Freudian slip, and he said that Julian Nagelsmann is the German head coach for now. For now. Which literally suggested that this guy was not going to last in the job for too long. Of course, he apologized shortly after that, but we do know Jurgen Klopp's long-held interest in this national team job. And it's also a matter of fact that this is one of the fewest jobs that will tempt him to come out of this self-imposed sabbatical. And so that leaves you wondering whether or not he was speaking for himself and that was his true opinion, or he had some information from the DFB that maybe at the end of this tournament, whatever happens, they are going to move on Julian Nagelsmann. So that is the situation that Julian Nagelsmann finds himself in. At this point, it is not about how brilliant the set of ideas he's got are. It is not about how promising of a coach he is. I certainly like him as a manager, but I think in the last 2 years with Germany, he has not had the results that will give credibility to your ideas. He has not been able to sustain the performance levels that will breed faith into this 2-year or so project that he's been on with the national team. His first tournament certainly didn't end too well when they got eliminated by Spain. I think it was the quarters of the Euro 2024. Exited under controversial circumstances when they should have had a penalty against Spain, but the referee overlooked it. And now they've also exited after Jonathan Tah scored a goal that was ruled out, only for him to go and then miss that crucial spot kick penalty in the shootout. So this is the situation with Julian Nagelsmann. And look, whatever your views are on him, you cannot look past the results, and you cannot look past the trend of results that we have seen over time. And I think that whatever decision that they make, the DFB makes regarding him, it looks like it will be tilting towards a resolution, a conclusion of this whole chapter that, look, you've done the best you can, but it's